What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Movies That Make You podcast. Season 2 is in full gear, and so we are super excited for what we got going on this season. Just to let you know what that means, we still have our weekly Prepisodes where we discuss movies to watch in preparation for a new release hitting theaters. I got my buddy POPpaGoss on those each and every week. Those drop on Mondays at 6 a.m. Also, we have our Creators Conversations. This is where we're interviewing people from the business and beyond to discuss what they do to create and how they create their art. So be on the lookout for that. We're also doing our monthly watch-alongs where we pick a movie to watch. We live stream our conversation on YouTube. This week, we've got the Evil Dead series gearing up for Evil Dead Burn. We've invited LazerWagon to be on the podcast for that week as we talk about all the previous Evil Dead movies. We hope you also check out our website at moviesthatmakeyoupodcast.com. There you can see all of our social links. You can listen to the podcast. You can watch the podcast. We also have our merch store. You can find tons of merch for Movies That Make You and our friends. We also have a link to our letterbox where you can see all the movies that we watch in preparation for the new releases, but also the movies that make you laugh, the movies that make you cry, the movies that make you scream, and everything in between. So before we get to this week's episode, let's check out what we got coming up on the Movies That Make You podcast. Next week, we're welcoming Chris Valentine back on this show to talk about all the Spider-Man movies up until this point. We've got Brand New Day dropping in theaters that Friday, so we want to be prepared because they could throw anything at us. On July 31st, we've got our special double feature live watch, and it's going to be a first watch for me, and that is Escape from New York, and a first watch for everyone almost, Escape from LA. We hope you'll join us for this John Carpenter special. The week after that, we've got the Spooky Okie back to prepare for Ice Cream Man dropping in theaters, the new Eli Roth film. So we're going to be talking about the original Ice Cream Man. We're going to be talking about Thanksgiving, Hostel, and Cabin Fever from Eli Roth. The week after that, we've got its very special episode featuring Jeff Barker, father to Curry Barker. We had him on a Creators Conversation. He's joining the podcast for a Prepisode for It. It is being re-released in a 40th anniversary cover. So in order to celebrate that, we are going to be discussing his top 5 favorite Stephen King film adaptations. So we're looking forward to that conversation. We hope you are too. Hope those episodes excite you. So without further ado, let's get to the podcast. We are back with another episode of the Movies That Make You podcast. I'm Sprang. I'm joined by my co-host, Mr. POPpaGoss. What's up, buddy?
Hello, everyone.
And we are joined by a special first time to the podcast. He joined us for our Texas Frightmare live stream. But this is Chris, the LazerWagon official. What's up, man? How's it going?
Hey, what is up, Josh? It's
Not worthy.
I just want to say, man, thank you so much for the invite. Evil Dead is near and dear to my heart. So the fact that y'all, I mean, there's a lot of other people that are bigger fans than me, but I do love it so much. And when you asked if I would do this, it was a no-brainer. I didn't know what time, what date, but I was going to do it. So Thank you for the invite.
Absolutely.
No, you were one of the very first people that popped in my head. I was like, I bet Chris would want to do this episode because
join us.
It's kind of worked out. I've kind of been just mining all of Josh's friends, basically. Like,
perfect.
Hey,
yeah.
You know anybody that likes this? And he's like, yeah, I know 2 guys that like that.
As a matter of fact.
Okay, cool. Like, you know.
Yeah, this podcast is like a culmination of years of just, I like not even realizing that I was networking all these years, but like I've worked, the video store, especially in Colorado, like I met so many people that I still talk to today. And then just starting a channel when I moved here in Oklahoma and everything, like I've not a lot of them I haven't met in person, but like I've just reached out. They've interacted with my channel. We've talked a bunch in group chats and stuff. And I just like this last 3 years, I've just collected all the Infinity Stones of friends, and so now and then when Sprang needs me, I'm like, all right. I was like inevitable.
Yes.
And I
love it.
Yeah, it's great.
Awesome. Well, it was definitely great to hang out on the live stream, Chris. That was a lot of fun. You and Sam brought so much, life to that, and it was exciting. I can't wait to do that again sometime soon.
We'd love to anytime.
And it was great to meet you in person too. I met you actually last year at Tulsa HorrorCon. We met in person for the first time.
That's right.
And then we got to see each other hang out a little bit at Texas Frightmare this year. What was your biggest takeaway from Frightmare this year?
Frightmare this year, for me, I don't know how or why, but the vendor room was Banana Town. I I I mean, I think a lot of us are the same with crowds. With like, we love, it's like Randall says in Clerks. He said Dante says, "Well, you hate people," and he says, "But I love gatherings. Isn't it ironic?" So
Yeah.
it's kind of that thing because it's all these like-minded people, and but it was almost too many people for me, and for what I was there to do, which was try to focus on some vendor booths and cosplayers, and so it was just so crowded, which is a good thing. I'm not complaining. I just have never seen the vendor room that packed before. So there were some vendors we wanted to talk to that we couldn't reach, and we're not going to interrupt a sale just to
Mhm.
get a sound bite or just to say hi. So we spent a lot more time out in the lobby just capturing the cosplayers, that we could. So we weren't there specifically for we didn't have any reason or anybody that we had to go see or get an autograph. So it was kind of chill for us. A lot of times we have to completely divide that up with we got to get content, but we got to be a fan too. So that whenever I catch myself missing out on the fan experience, I feel like stop, you're doing it wrong. Like my nose is in the camera the whole time and I'm not even enjoying the show. So I'm still trying to find that happy medium. And so I think with the vendor room was so packed, like I said, so we just said, you know what, let's just throw an audible and we'll just stay out here in the auditorium mostly. It was better on the pocketbook for us this time. So we couldn't we couldn't get to the vendors, so we couldn't spend money. We couldn't, so it all worked out. But yeah, it was a great show, and the meetup was by far my favorite part of the show. I'm in a limbo right now, as we've talked about, that I'm in between moving houses. So that also meant that my Frightmare video is on ice. So I have most of the cosplay stuff in order, but I want to put a little bit more of what I did get in the vendor room, and as well as some highlights of our meetup, just some of that B-roll I got, and talk about how much fun that was. So it'll be one of those delayed releases, but I'll have it out before Houston Horror, hopefully. So you get to see my kind of what I thought about it a little more succinct in that video when it comes out, hopefully in a few weeks.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
mine's behind as well. I'm behind on a lot of stuff, but yeah, my Frightmare kind of went on the back burner. I put out a long form video today. That took precedent because I had a buddy here, Happy Toys and Collectibles. He has a little booth down the street from here at this place called the Oracle. Kind of like they have like people rent out booths and they can sell whatever like vintage clothes and all this
Cool.
stuff. And it just reopened recently, but he gave me it's in the video that I put out today, but he makes like collectibles, like horror collectibles, and he actually makes the like Happy Toys and Collectibles truck from Maximum Overdrive, and it's pretty legit. It's pretty big too. So he gave me one for free for he wanted me to like show off his booth and all that. So that took precedent this past week and a half. So I've just slowly been working on that one. And then the next long form will probably be Frightmare. So hopefully I can start on that this weekend.
Josh, I have a bone to pick with you because you're going to cost me. I talked about all the money I saved. You're going to cost me somewhere in the neighborhood of $130 because I saw you posted somebody made like 10 or 15 Johnny figures from In a Violent Nature. Was that you?
Oh,
Or
I know.
yeah. And so I'm
Yeah.
like, dang
Yeah.
it.
I've never ordered. So shout out to Johnny Horror.
Yes, that's who it was.
He's got like a consignment company and he's been in the con game for a long time. Like he has a Facebook group called Con Crypt. And that's
That's
the
it.
name of the company that makes the figures, but they're super limited. I think he made a 2-pack from House of a Thousand Corpses last year that has Rainn Wilson as like Fish Boy. So he's like actually like the Fish Boy figure.
Yeah.
But they're pretty legit. They're pricey, but just because like they have to like, make them all from scratch. And
I appreciate that too.
yeah,
I
no,
would
I
take
saw
that.
that and I was like, man, I know it's pricey, but Chris would love one of those.
I've got to. I've got
Yeah.
to. So yeah, I've
Yeah,
got to do it.
that's amazing.
Nice. Yeah.
So one of the things I do like to ask first-time guests to the podcast is just to kind of get the audience used to who you are and where your love of movies came from. And so just kind of tell us your origin story of your movie love.
Yeah. early on. So, and you know, if this goes too long, sometimes I can make a short story long. So we'll try to keep it short. But early love of movies. I mean, there was a theater here in my hometown, Waco, called the 25th Street Theater. It was very iconic. It had these charioteer murals. It was just a little two theater shotgun. But I saw movies like the original Star Wars, King Kong. Those movies right there, that blew me away. I know I'm a little bit older than y'all, but I know you still had to have that same feeling when you were 4, 5, 6 in the movie theater, and it was a magical experience. And it's why, you know, we still have that love of going to the cinemas, and we don't want it to die, physical media. But so just I was enamored. It was magical. I would take a look at the poster, like say King Kong, and you look at the poster going in, and your imagination's already running wild, and then you go into the theater, and for an hour and a half you're transported. You're in a different world, and everything seemed real. Cut to when I got a little bit older, like 10, 12, 13, the video store era kind of came into play. So my sister worked at our local VHS store. It was called At Home Video. It was a mom and pop. This was before Blockbuster or anything like that. And the coolest thing about her working there was the owner said, you can take home when you close every night, you can take home as many movies as you want. She goes, I don't care if you take the whole store, but you got to bring them back before we open in the morning, you know, but it's free. So I found myself where are the coolest VHS covers? They were in the horror section, you know, and I like being scared. She liked to scare me because she was 4 years older than me. So I owe watching Exorcist way too early, Texas Chainsaw Massacre way too early, Psycho, The Omen, all the 70s bangers was my sister trying to make me have nightmares and me face my fears. You know, I would Leatherface grabs Pam and I ran into the kitchen and I'm screaming and she's like, come back in here. I'm like, no, I can hear it still happening. So you know, I had that love hate with being scared, but then also at an early age, I realized I knew it was fake. Like my mom always worried. She's like, oh, he's watching scary movies and that's such a bad influence. I knew it was fake. I knew that someone was getting paid to scare people and to, you know, that, and Sam and I allude to this all the time on our podcast, but I wanted to know, like, someone, like, I know it's fake, but it's still scary. You know, there's an end. Like, it's not going to be scary forever until you try to go to sleep that night. But I wanted to be a special effects movie maker. And that's what I thought I was going to do until I got into high school. And my art teacher was like, if you want to make money creatively, you can go into graphic design. She goes, I'm just being honest. You won't be a fine artist. No, it's just so small. It's like being a professional athlete. You know, she said, very hard. I'm not trying to crush your dreams, but you need to have something to fall back on. And so, but not to get off topic, but like I was real into comic books and I was into Todd McFarlane and I did a lot of research on him before the internet. And he was a graphic designer first, you know, and that was kind of cool too. So it's the creativity that got me into it. And that's why I love, even if, you know, meeting some of these people may not live up to your expectations, but I did meet Tom Savini and I did, you know, and I did meet Greg Nicotero and I love meeting these special effects masters because that's what I wanted to do, you know, and even watching Jaws and things like that. Like it was always the special effects for me and the creativity. And then cut to now, my love for it now is it keeps me young. The watching horror movies reminds me of being a kid and being scared and staying up too late. And so that's where it comes from. I hope that makes sense and didn't trail off too far.
No, man. Yeah, that's totally awesome. And actually, we just had a really fun time. Maybe we'll try and we've talked about it a couple of times doing an Austin trip and trying to see who can join us there. It'd be fun to do the Troublemaker Studios tour.
I would love it
to meet up with Jason Vines.
Yeah,
down in Austin. Because he's ATXFX. He did the visual effects for Iron Lung. It'd be fun to introduce you to him too. I mean, he just met his hero, Rick Baker, a couple of weeks ago. So
at Monsterpalooza.
Yeah. So, you know, it'd be kind of fun. Like, again, like that's one thing we kind of started talking about, like the relationships that Josh has introduced me to and all the different people he's reached out to for the interviews. It's just like we're building this community, and most every guest that we've had on an interview has also agreed to being on an episode of the podcast. And so it's just really fun to kind of kind of build those relationships. So pretty cool.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But I say that because I think it'd be cool for you to meet him too and kind of pick his brain,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
your
just
love
like
for
hearing
this.
the stories and,
Yeah.
live vicariously through their career stories as a, a missed opportunity or and when I look back at it, I'm like, I wouldn't have left my family to go to California, the sacrifices that a lot of
Right.
people had to make, actors and special effect artists. Deep down, I probably would not have lasted,
Yeah.
Yeah, Jason in the Iron Lung interview, he mentioned that like, people say that all the time. They're like, "Oh, you're too old, like you can't do what you want to do." I mean, he said he got a really late start. Like he kind of had things that he wanted to do and he went to school for and stuff, but he didn't start heavily getting jobs working on like movies and TV shows until he was like, I think 39, which I just turned 38
Yeah,
this year. So like never too
absolutely.
late, but yeah, you can always start that. But yeah, I'm the same as you, Chris. Like that's what got me into horror in the first place was like the visuals and
So
I know
creative.
times have changed, but it's exciting that some of these indie filmmakers are like resurrecting the old ways of filmmaking, the cheap budgets, the everybody's working as a team to make something come to life, and we can tell like we definitely notice, and you can use CGI here and there to like help with things, like, that's fine, but, like,
Certainly.
when it's just heavily I think that's why some of the horror movies do so poorly, especially in the box office, is, like, we've seen all that in every movie that's come out the last 10, 15 years, so people want, originality and
Yeah, when it starts
creativity.
to look almost like anime, like that
Yeah,
cross, but or video game, like a hyper realistic video game, but it's like, come on, man.
yeah,
Yeah.
right. Especially for horror, I think horror is, like, the one genre, especially in movies where, like, you need that authentic style and, like, that originality because otherwise, I mean, just look at what Curry just did with Obsession, like,
Love it
original
so much.
idea, great script, great pacing, all hands on deck making, visual effects. They didn't have to use a ton of that, but, like, the stuff that they did
Did
show on
yeah.
screen, you're like, "Oh my god, someone made that. That's crazy."
I love that story so much of
Mhm.
how just people getting together and doing that and to doing what $1,000,000 budgets can't,
Yeah.
like, so great. And it's the creativity. It comes back to creative, like-minded individuals for the betterment of the team, like wanting to put out, something amazing, and they did it. And now everybody's looking for the blueprint,
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that kind of kicks us right into our discussion today. We're going to
Yep.
be talking about the Evil Dead series in preparation for Evil Dead Burn. It dropped in theaters a couple weeks ago. They moved it up after I'd already scheduled the podcast, but we wanted to go ahead and make sure we talk about these Evil Dead movies because they're great. And speaking of visual effects and trailblazing and just community of people working together, I mean that's what the Evil Dead began as. And I remember just hearing a story recently. I don't mean to steal anybody's thunder, but the reason Bruce Campbell starred was because he is the one who looked the best. They're like, you're the cute one, so we got to put you in front of the camera. You can't be
Yeah.
behind the camera. I mean, and that's how they were just like, how do we make this work? It reminds me a lot of, like the Halloween when John Carpenter is just working with his buddies, and Nick Castle is another filmmaker. And he's like, yeah, sure, I'll jump in and put on the suit because they're just trying to make something together and work with what they have, and they make something that's just revolutionary. Chris, I know you said the Evil Dead is big. You said that when you're talking about your introduction. What is it about the Evil Dead series that drew you in so much?
Yeah, well, I started getting chills when you were just talking about the segue about how it was a team coming together, and it's it's the working with your friends and making something cool. And there's a picture, and I get so emotional every time I see it. It's a photo of Sam Raimi filming one of the opening scenes. He's 20 years old and he's hanging off the top of the van shooting the front of the Delta, and that picture is worth a million words to me. And it just showed, they didn't know what that was going to turn into. They didn't know in 2026 Evil Dead Burn is going to be happening off of. They were just trying to have fun and do something scary. And so it's 100%. And then Sam Raimi, just getting to know him and hear his interviews and see how his mind works. Like I love that guy. Like I will follow him to through anything. What's crazy is when I was deep into, like I talked about in like when I was in junior high and I started to really get into Freddy and Jason were huge, like the Friday the 13th were just back to back to back. And in 6th grade, my mom took me to my first Friday the 13th in the theater. And that was cool. So for a while, I was all about Jason and Freddy, and then Hellraiser comes around. But then going back to that video store, it's like, what videos are you going to get tonight or this weekend? Which ones are you going to take home? And there was something about that Evil Dead 2 cover with the skull, and Bruce's eyes are in that skull. That always spoke to me, and I was almost like, for a while, I was like, that looks too scary, like that might be too scary. But so I it was not my favorite, from the beginning, like, I watched them out of sequence, I watched 2, and then I appreciated that there was some humor in it because I was like, "There's some, like, Three Stooges vibes." I didn't realize
Yeah,
it at the time that,
yeah,
the Sam Raimi and Bruce's and all their love for the Three Stooges, but, you know, I it helped me because you're scared, and then you laugh, and then you're scared, and then you laugh. But then I didn't really start, like, leaning heavily into the series probably until college, and I'd watch Evil Dead would be on and I'd watch it, but I was not like early on collecting the physical media and stuff. And the more I would say it's probably around the 2000s when you can start researching and you get into the Blu-rays. Now I was a Laserdisc owner for 18 months or however long those were around. But so I had a Halloween Criterion collection, and I never watched the movie. I would watch all the extras and the behind the scenes and stuff like that. So for Evil Dead, it just comes back to more about the teamwork and the creativity, and of course it's a fun ride, but I love that there's a quick 2-minute clip on YouTube too. You can find they're asking Bruce Campbell about uh, about Evil Dead 2, and they said, is it a sequel? Is it a prequel? And he's like, it's a requel." And there's even people that'll line up, a certain part, you stop Evil Dead 1 here, and then you pick up here and kind of make it one film. But yeah, just that's my love of it. I don't want to get too into the movies, but
yeah.
it's Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell, and like you said, he had the chin, he had the face, and there is an audio book too I'll recommend that we can touch on later. But if Chins Could Kill: Confessions of a B-Movie Actor, he goes in, so it's on Audible, and he goes way into like the financing and into the woods and how they got this thing going, and it's so interesting from his perspective.
That's awesome. I love
Yeah,
that. Well, let's jump into the movies. How about that? We ready?
sounds great.
Awesome. So The Evil Dead, Sam Raimi's first film, Bruce Campbell stars. It's basically they're a group of kids that are teenagers, college age, whatever. They're going to stay at a cabin that somebody's relative has. They get there, it's kind of beat up, it's kind of nasty. They decide they're going to stay the night, and then stuff starts to happen, stuff starts to go down. This is basically kind of, I don't know if it's the first Cabin in the Woods story, but it feels very much like just evil is coming after them. They go down in the basement, they find an evil book, they start to read it, they start to do things with it, and then it starts to take one of the friends starts to get possessed, and then that grows and transitions, and they try to take it out and try to figure out how to stop this evil. And that's the course of the movie, and it ends somewhat kind of on a cliffhanger too. And then we kind of pick that up in Evil Dead 2, it seems, a little bit. So, Chris, I just tried to do a short synopsis, but what are some of the things that stand out to you about the first Evil Dead?
Well, yeah, that you did awesome. It can be triggering or very uncomfortable. Like my wife was out when she, like, if you start talking about the tree branches and the possession and stuff like that, that's a touchy scene for some people, and even me sometimes I'm like, wow, that's a lot, especially for back then. But I just I love the riding up to the cabin in the Delta and the way they're singing and laughing, and the demon's perspective, is kind of following the car. Like, such a cool opening to a movie. And that rickety bridge, how they kind of get stuck, and that's going to be a problem later. You could just the
Yeah.
foreshadowing that I love. And then to me, one of the biggest things is listen to or watch it on a really good sound system or with headphones, because Sam Raimi is huge on audio design. And so like creaking doors and especially the swing at the porch at the beginning. It kind of has a mind of its own. Like, I never used to think at first. I didn't think about it, but then the more I thought, I was like, that's almost like there's a demon swinging in it because it's not that windy, and just that setting, like you mentioned, that remote cabin, like nothing good is going to happen in this movie. These
Exactly.
5 people are in for a night.
Yeah. The one note that I wrote down here is I feel like that this is the Terrifier of the 80s because there is so much blood in this movie, like in all of these movies. But for me, like just the fact that it was the 80s to have this much blood and it was that kind of orangish hue. I think, Josh, you might have notes on that. But I think you've mentioned before that it was to try and keep the rating down because if it was too red, it would be NC-17 or something.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Yeah,
just
different
like,
Well,
colors.
they really did that on the second one. Yeah, we talked about that on the Sam Raimi episode, but,
yeah,
yeah, they had to be, like, a certain shade of red. So, like, yeah, they had to, like, tone it down, and I'm pretty sure they went through a lot of stuff with this one, but, I mean, it was also independent at the time, so, like, it started as a student film, basically. I mean, Sam was going to school in, New York, I think, but yeah, him and, Bruce, they've known each other since high school. Like they went to the same high school in Royal Oak, Michigan. They're both from Michigan, and their families are from Michigan. But they went to Willie E. Groves High School, and that's where they fell in. They became best friends, and they bonded over Marvel comics and horror films, and then slapstick, the Three Stooges, like what Chris said a second ago. And then they started making Super 8 films together. And, I think Bruce was always like just there as like a helping hand to Sam to like for him to learn. I don't think Bruce was ever like, I want to be a filmmaker. Like, I think he just enjoyed it, which led to him becoming an actor, obviously. But yeah, you can definitely tell when it's a Sam Raimi film. I mean,
hmm,
going all the way back to Evil Dead, like, it's just he has a certain style. He has things he does with, the camera shots, and especially in the Evil Dead franchise, like all three of the original trilogy, like they're those shots of, like, the demons going through the woods and stuff, like,
yeah,
a lot of that in the first movie, especially, like, they didn't have a huge budget to, like they didn't have, cranes to, like, do the camera work and do it. So, like, in the first movie, Bruce and Sam took, like, 2 by 4s and with the camera, and they, like, ran through the forest, like, that was them, like,
yeah,
running through the woods, like, I mean, so inventive, but,
Yeah.
you wouldn't have guessed that because now the movie's established itself, so well. And then actually to finish the to ma help get the movie finished, over the finish line with, like, the budget and stuff, Bruce Campbell's family owned a cabin or a house up in Michigan. They owned, like, a big ranch or something, and, he was able to put that up as, like, collateral, basically. So Bruce believed in Sam so much and what they were doing. He just had an inkling that it was, like, gonna do big things, and so he was able to upgrade to 35 millimeter, with the budget they got from putting the house up for as collateral and stuff. And it also helped it get released theatrically, which, is huge, especially in that era of movies. Like, you didn't get known unless I mean, they had word of mouth, but like today we have, the internet, so it's a lot easier. Back then, like, people had to actually go to the theater. You would hear word of mouth outside of the theater or at school or whatever. So, that was a huge deal. And then also going back to what Chris was saying about, like, being a team and working together with your friends, like, there was 13 total crew members, and they all stayed in that cabin that is the main location in the movie, and the cabin had, like, no plumbing, like, the plumbing didn't work, so they would go, like, days without showering, like, they'd go into town and shower, like, every few days or whatever. But they just said it was literal hell, like, they were filming Evil Dead, but they were literally living the Evil Dead. They also filmed a little bit in the winter, so a lot of them got sick. So, yeah, just talk about team building and, like, back then I'm sure the resources were even more limited. Like nowadays, even an independent film still has like stuff to back up. You know, they're usually covered at least a little bit to where they can go do, and unless you just choose to, go
Yeah.
guerrilla style or whatever and do it all on your own. And then, yeah, the fake blood was a mix of Caro syrup, non-dairy creamer, and food coloring. So they mixed all that together to get the blood that they had. And Bruce Campbell's shirt by the end of filming, they had covered it in so much of that fake blood, and it was cold and it got left out all the time and it just dried. So his shirt by the end of shooting, you could break it because it was like solid. Like he tried to take it off without breaking it and it just like cracked in half or whatever. The Delta 88, the 73 Oldsmobile, that was Raimi's dad's car. And so he had bought it when he was like 14. Sam Raimi was like 14 years old, I think, and he ended up giving Sam the car. And then Sam brings that car back in a lot of his other movies.
Mhm.
Uncle Ben and Aunt May, that's their car in Spider-Man. It's what's the girl from Drag Me to Hell, the
Oh,
old
yeah.
lady,
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mrs. Ganoush. Her car is same one. And then obviously like it's Ash's car throughout the movies and stuff. And then going back to him being 20, like we're living in a era now, with Curry Baker and Kane Parsons and all these young filmmakers that are barely 20 or in their mid 20s, like Curry. And all these people online are freaking out. They're like, oh, they're so young. And it's like, yeah, it's impressive, especially what they're doing now. But there's directors who were super young. Spielberg, I think, was 26 when he made Jaws, 27, something like that. Sam Raimi was 20. I mean, I wasn't even 21 yet when he made Evil Dead. He's still a college kid.
Mhm.
So I mean, it's kind of the same thing. And then just one last thing, the we have Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell to thank for the Coen brothers becoming what they are. And so like Joel Cohen was an editor on the first Evil Dead, and
Thought I
him and
saw his
Sam,
name.
yeah,
Yeah.
him and Sam have known each other for quite some time, and Joel and he's been married to Frances McCormick for a long time, but they used to be roommates with Sam and a couple other people. They had a house back in the day, so he was an editor on Evil Dead, and then um, like 3 or 4 years after Evil Dead came out, the Coen brothers released Blood Simple, which was their breakout film, and they actually got the financing and all that stuff together thanks to the help of Sam and Bruce Campbell. So we have Sam and Bruce Campbell to thank for the Coen brothers kind of like getting their start and becoming what they are today.
That's amazing. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
one of my favorite shots in Blood Simple, and it's ver I mean, I'm not saying that, but, like, it's above the ceiling fan blades, and so they're
Mm,
shooting down, and first of all, it's like, how'd you get the camera like, now, you use a little tiny GoPro or something, but, like, some of those shots in Blood Simple are so creative, just like Sam Raimi, and, one thing I heard about the production of Evil Dead 1 was those contacts, like, now, people use soft contacts and stuff, but those were super hard, and I think they were like, I don't know, Josh, you made it, but it's like 11 or 13 minutes is the max amount of time they could
yeah,
have them
it's
in their
pretty low.
eyes. And so they would have to film it, take them out, let their eyes breathe, and then put them back in. And just what a torture. So no
Yeah.
wonder they're, they're really playing up
Hated.
the demon part.
Exactly. I do have some moments listed out here, but I wanted to kind of go to y'all first before I go. Chris, what are some standout moments in Evil Dead that stick out in your mind?
I love just quickly, I love the radio. I love the prop of the radio. It's our centerpiece on our podcast. And most people don't even notice it, but we have the radio from tracked it down on eBay, and it was not cheap. But and I even tried to get the same reels, and I do have a project where I want to record Professor Noby's incantations and his readings onto those reels and be able to play that because it's a working radio.
Wow.
But I just love that prop. And then probably one of my favorite scenes is Cheryl and when they're playing cards, when Linda and they're playing cards, and she's she's got her head turned. She's already been possessed, but she has her head turned and she's naming the cards before they're set down. And then when she turns around, the reveal is so scary.
Yeah, absolutely. Josh, you got a couple?
Yeah, honestly, I mean, like you guys, we already talked about. I really love how that style of shot where he uses them in the other movies too. But when the demon's going through the woods and stuff, like it almost looks like, especially when they're in the car and like driving around and stuff, and they turn around. It almost looks like it's sped up, almost like the way they shoot it. But yeah, I like that part. And then just because it's super creepy when she first comes up out of a floorboard and like you first see like her, her whole get up of her face. I mean, especially when I was younger, that creeped me out a lot the first time I watched Evil Dead. And just her voice and just that you could like see her, but like it was kind of dark, dimly lit. Yeah, just that scene is super creepy.
That
That's awesome.
demon,
Yeah.
I call it demon vision, but that,
Yeah.
that low, it's in the video game. So if you play, you can play survivors, but if you play one of the demons, you get to control that low swooping
Oh, that's
motion.
cool.
It is so much fun. The game had a hard learning curve, and it was it it got shut down too early, but I still play it, and as long as the servers are up, and it's just so much fun to glide through the real
Yeah.
low speed. But I think they did speed it up, Josh. They had that camera on those 2x4s, and think, they may be walking normal speed, but then when it's sped up and you add the sound effects, it's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It works really well because it makes you like kind of unnerved, like it's right on your tail
Yes.
the way that they do it. So yeah, really cool.
One of the things that stood out to me was there's that bounce back between when the Deadite is being like the Deadite, and then when they kind of bounce back to the normal voice to try and manipulate the people, right? It's this kind of back and forth. I think that's a trademark of Evil Dead. And I think there's lots of trademarks there. There's Sam Raimi-isms, and that kind of permeates all of his films. But I think one of the things I found fun while watching these films again, kind of all in one kind of fell swoop, is that there's these very unique things that make Evil Dead Evil Dead. And one of those, of course, is the flying through with the woods. And then we even get some fun homages to that, and that's still done in Evil Dead Rise, even though it's in the city. So you've got that same kind of look. You've got they have to be dismembered. You've got some sort of audio tape or record or something is telling the story that unleashes the book. I mean, it's just like all these things that a lot of horror franchises suffer from, which is they just think like they're just repeating the same thing. This one has some of the same beats, but it never feels like you're repeating. Even though Evil Dead 2013 might have been, people going into it might have thought this was a remake. It doesn't feel like a copy at all. It feels like, and of course we've heard later that Lee Cronin and Betty talked about like, well, this could actually be a part of the 3 books from Army of Darkness, which I'm kind of jumping ahead of ourselves. But I just think this is one of those series, and I think even CJ said it on our Sam Raimi episode, is that this is a horror franchise that has no low quality films. They're all bangers. And I didn't put it together partly because I hadn't seen Army of Darkness until recently, but kind of rewatching things for this, I'm just like, he's absolutely right. Like every single one of these movies is good. And it just kind of shows you how strong of a movie the first one is. That's why I kind of wanted to mention it here, is it's establishing all of those groundbreaking, those unique, those creative elements that are then going to be used in each movie and made even bigger. And even like in Evil Dead Rise, the kind of like bait and switch of like, you think it's one thing and then it's not. And it's just like, anyway, I was just blown away by all of those decisions that Sam made for shots and for the creativity, the blood being as crazy, gory and bloody as it was for the time. The one comment I did have on like one of the decisions is like the necklace that he gives her doesn't end up being, I thought, initially watching it, this is going to be some spiritual thing. And it's going to be, no, it just ends up being the thing he can use to like get the thing he needs to like take out the Deadite. So I thought that was cool. And then I think the other thing I wanted to mention was the score is so great, even from the beginning. I just think there's just such a magic to the score, and it has such great energy with all those strings and all that stuff. So I've got a bunch more written down, but I think that's all I'll say for this one. But any other thoughts before we move on to 2?
No, it's a great starting point.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I did mention in the synopsis of the first one that there is a final scare. It feels like it's a nice little cliffhanger. Bruce Ash ends up being the final boy, not the final girl. He ends up being the final boy, but then there's the scare. Evil Dead 2, I'm putting it on and I'm going, what is this? What is this? Because it like you said, Chris, like there's a reason people are asking the question, what is this Evil Dead 2? Because it doesn't feel like it's a direct sequel. But for me, I guess my takeaway from it feels like it's Ash and another girl. They go to a cabin, and it's kind of picking up from at that point after the first movie, kind of on. It's kind of what it feels like to me. But you kind of mentioned there's another way to kind of watch it too. But similar thing, we've got kind of 2 stories going on. One is this professor's got a daughter. He's found the trick to this Evil Dead thing. And so she's researching it with her boyfriend, it looks like. And then Bruce is at the cabin and he gets actually possessed by the Deadite. And then it's kind of like him fighting back against it. So we've got half the movie, or probably 3/4 of the movie, is Ash just kind of doing a Castaway shot where it's just him against the Deadites, kind of him against stop motion, him alone in the cabin, him against himself, kind of just going back and forth. And then also the daughter, they finally end up meeting up and trying to figure out how to get rid of the Deadite. And then there is another kind of little stab of scare at the very end as well, just to show that that Ash might not be fully taken away. But then we get a little teaser for Army of Darkness, and kind of he ends up in another time, in another space. So, Chris, Evil Dead 2, you said this was the first one you watched. What are some things that stood out to you?
Yeah, like you said, with the switcheroo with the different actors, it's like that's not Linda. That's not
Yeah.
that's not my Linda. But when you're so into the first one, but then when you start to realize, there's rights things and there's actors and there's Actors Guild and there's all these reasons why there's different actors. But Evil Dead 2 has a very young Greg Nicotero helping with these bad ass special effects, and I just love the way the Deadites look. I love the possessed Ed Getley, the boyfriend of Annie or whatever. He's dead by dawn. I love that so much. And I love that Ted Raimi plays Henrietta, the possessed Henrietta. I was trying to brush up last night, and there's 2 really good, or at least 2 really good, like making of. There's like a 45-minute making of I was watching on YouTube, but there's also like All Hail the Deadites that goes into a lot of stuff. But they were pulling the latex feet off of Ted Raimi, and they just turned it upside down and just sweat poured out. It was so gross. But I feel like the special effects were definitely upgraded in 2. And I do like that you hear more of the backstory with Professor Noby and that why he's there and explains the book a little bit better. And then Bruce Campbell, when he, like you said, when he's in alone, like he's putting on a really good acting clinic, and he's doing all those stunts by himself. He's breaking those dishes over his head and flipping himself. And it's got I was watching that making of, and they said that the eyeball scene where it pops out and flies across the room and goes into the mouth, that is 1,000 pulled from the Three Stooges, but it was like an olive or something, and in the Three Stooges. But I love the movie. I love the Deadite deer. Even the deer is possessed, and you see Ash start to go. He's dancing with the dishes.
Such a great scene.
It's so funny. It's like that. I'm scared. Okay, I'm laughing. Because it's hilarious. And like he's just like it's psychotic hysteria that he's going into. But I love it so much. It's got so much to offer.
Yeah,
for sure. I think for me, I actually kind of stayed away from this series for a while because of that humor. I kind of mentioned it on the Sam Raimi episode. I didn't understand the scares with the jokes until almost until now, or like the last 10 years or so. I've kind of grown to understand the humor of that and the fun of that. And of course, we've gotten lots of other movies that have done that too, that have kind of expanded my. But like kind of growing up, or when I first started watching movies, Evil Dead wasn't on my radar, and then I heard Army of Darkness, and I just felt like, oh, that's just goofy. So Evil Dead 2 is that nice kind of in between. Evil Dead 1 is really straight scares. There's not a whole lot of that kind of Sam Raimi kind of goofiness to it. Evil Dead 2, you get a lot of that kind of, you start introducing this kind of horrors and this and the comedy. I think, of course, the hand kind of going against yourself, that reminded me of Idle Hands with Devon Sawa. I remember seeing that in college. I thought that was really fun. I thought the recreation of her body was insanely good visually, really crazy. I did, like I said in the recap, I thought Bruce Campbell doing a Castaway movie, was insane. I did think that like you said, the quality definitely amped up. The picture was clearer, the sound was better, and all that stuff. And then just the classic comedy, classic 80s. I actually said this one feels like the 80s Iron Lung because of how much blood was used in this one. So if the first one's Terrifier, this one felt like Iron Lung a little bit. So, and then of course the Dead by Dawn, we get that kind of harkened back to in some of the other ones as well. But then that also made me think of Dead by Daylight and After Dawn as these other video games that are kind of that premise of like, just survive the night. But yeah. And then I just said definitely a unique director with a unique visual palette. His visual effects are just, of course, he's got a team working with him, and of course, Greg Nicotero helping bring his vision to life. But his vision for what they should look like is really unique from start to finish. So
there's one more thing I just wanted to mention, or two quick things. I love when Ash's face is in the muddy water puddle, and he's got the he pops up, and the sun is kind of like, it's obviously burning him as a deadite, but that look, it's kind of like the sideshow collectible, that possessed Ash or deadite Ash or not evil Ash, but deadite Ash. That look is so iconic, and I think it's just it's one of my favorite images when you see it at horror conventions through artwork. Like Rotten Applehead Art Designs has a cool like fluorescent art piece that I want to buy of that. It's just really cool. And then filming locations are near and dear to my heart. So when I heard, that cabin was flattened years ago or burned down, and then there was like a little bit of chimney left, and now there's hardly anything, but you can go watch like Sean Clark's older videos or other people that have gone to where the cabin was. But specifically for Evil Dead 2, it was filmed in a gymnasium or in a school, and they were able to have the true, like the original Evil Dead cabin did not have the basement. Like that was a false floor and all that stuff. But I believe, but then the second one, they were able to build that whole set 2 stories in the gymnasium of that school, so they could really, explore what's down in the fruit cellar and what Henrietta's got going on down there.
Two other things I wanted to mention on this one is that we kind of get an expansion of the Evil Deadisms, and that is the boomstick, and then we get the chainsaw, and it's like those two items become something that is then used and played on in all the films kind of going forward as being like staples to Evil Dead. So we've got the ghost vision, we've got we got to dismember them, we've got the boomstick, we've got the chainsaw, we've got copious amounts of blood, and that kind of sets this kind of tone for the Evil Dead. So I just want to mention that.
Your card says behind you, a groovy good time. That's where Groovy came from, and it was like, hell yeah.
Iconic, yeah.
Exactly.
And then, like you said, the color of the blood, I was just watching that on that making of, and like Josh said in 2, it's like they used whatever they had. They're like, some of it's green, some of it's blue, some of it's red or different shades of red, but it was to kind of get around a ratings thing as well,
Yeah. Cool, Josh.
Great
what you
movie.
got? Backlot breakdown.
Yeah, just real quick too on that gymnasium. So that was in Tennessee. So it was like 270 miles, I think, from the original filming location from the first one. And they did that on purpose because Sam and the producer of his movie Crime Wave a couple years before that, I guess there was a lot of studio interference with Crime Wave and stuff. So Sam wanted to get away from where as far away as he could, just so he could kind of do his own thing. So having it at that gymnasium really helped. It was written by Sam Raimi, obviously, but it was also written by Scott Spiegel. and they've been good friends for a long time. We talked with our buddy CJ on the Sam Raimi episode. Scott Spiegel makes appearances in some of the Sam Raimi films. He's the man on the balcony in Spider-Man 2 when finds the pizzas and then he's about to eat a piece and Peter takes it away. So that's kind of a cool thing. Really awesome person who like helped get this movie made and funded and stuff. Stephen King actually, he's a huge reason why Evil Dead 2 even was made in the first place. He's a huge fan of the first one. He became kind of close, I think, with Sam Raimi and his production company that helped him make Maximum Overdrive that he directed and he wrote the book that it's based off of. They helped finance Evil Dead 2, which, that's really cool to have somebody big like that, especially at that time. I think Stephen King had a lot of novels that were, top 10, and then they've stood the test of time too. So it's pretty cool. As far as effects go, the smoke from the chainsaw is actually tobacco smoke that they hooked a tube to the back of the chainsaw and then they blew the tobacco smoke through to make it have that cool effect, which is pretty fun. You and Chris were just talking about the changing the rating due to the shading and color of the blood. That was like a really big deal because they tried to avoid an X rating. They actually almost got an X rating for that movie. And then they changed the color of the blood like more, I guess, more vibrant so that it's not as realistic looking. So that gave them an unrated. So they were able to like have more of a release for it. Really fun. The evil sound, the demon sounds going through the forest and stuff. That's a mixture of Sam Raimi's voice and Orson Welles. And Orson Welles, if you want to look at it that way, technically Evil Dead 2 is his last performance, which is kind of fun. Evil Dead 2 is actually the highest audience score reviewed of all the Evil Dead movies at 89%, which is pretty awesome. I mean, I've enjoyed a lot of the newer ones, and I know the fans have too, but I think it's kind of cool that like one of the older ones is still the higher audience score, which is fun. So that to film it to release it as an unrated film, the producers had to actually they had to put the name under a different production company name just so that they didn't get picked up by somebody else that would block the release of it. So they created Rosebud Productions, that's what they put in the film, just so they could avoid all the X rating and all that stuff. And then just one more kind of fun fact: if you look in the background of the scene where Ash kills Linda in the tool shed, there's actually a Freddy Krueger glove if you look really closely on the back wall,
Nice.
which is fun. So I think this came out in 87, so yeah, we were probably on, I don't even know, the third. I think actually maybe 4 of the Nightmare on Elm Streets had come out by that point, but Freddy was real big in the mid to late 80s. So like a fun little nod to Freddy Krueger, which I thought was fun.
Absolutely, man. Dude, that's awesome. It's crazy to think Orson Welles. Now, do you know if he recorded it for it or did they just have old audio for
No,
him?
I don't I when I was looking up stuff, I don't think it said for
Okay.
sure, but I'm pretty sure they just used like stock
Mhm.
voice or whatever and
Yeah.
kind of like mixed it in there.
Still pretty cool.
But I mean, who knows? Maybe, maybe he thought Evil Dead was cool, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely.
A couple other things I want to mention. I'll mention the Darkest Teens at the end, but I just love that they had that they found that drawing in the book that was like of this guy that was the conqueror of the Deadites, and we see the little hand drawn Ash with the chainsaw hand that just foreshadowing to it actually happening. And that, of course, that's just this ridiculous premise, right? Like, that doesn't work. That's not going to work. But it's Evil Dead. It's Ash, and it's great, and it's awesome. I thought the big long neck of the Deadeye at the end was wild, and then when he spins the shotgun and sticks it in his back pouch, it's just like so cool, and it's just like it really kind of takes Ash from being the final boy like he was in the first movie to being like the conqueror of all Deadites. when we get to the second movie. And then, of course, it kind of jumps right into the third movie where he takes out a Deadite and everybody worships him and wants to crown him as king, you know?
Yes.
Chris, any other final thoughts on two?
No, I could go on forever, and I know we're up against it, so I don't. Yeah, like I said, I could talk to y'all about each of these movies for a day, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
And we'll do that. We'll do that in person.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, let's jump on into it then. Like I said, we finished Army of Darkness and finished 2, and he's in the past somehow, traveling through the wormhole, ends up in the past, and now Army of Darkness kicks off and shows us what he did back there to try and help this king overcome the Deadites that were just flying around in the air and being all crazy. And then he defeats them. He becomes their hero, their knight. I will say I had, this is one I told you, I held off because I was like, it's too goofy for me. Too goofy. I don't understand it. I watched it in October of last year as a part of my October scary movie marathon. And I just laughed hysterically at this movie from start to finish. It was like, this is not as kind of goofy humor as like Holy Grail, but it's a little bit more goofy than like Princess Bride, but it's in that realm. Like I see that those are the two kind of ends of the spectrum. I think it fits right in the middle of those two kind of genre pieces. And just the humor, just like, he's just so funny in the entire thing. And plus it's Sam Raimi back, kind of amping up the Sam Raimi-ness, amping up the like the goofy stuff. I don't mean goofy as disparaging. It's just
No.
like, it's just like, that's the silliness. It's him having fun and then having groovy time, right?
I agree. And I think it ages, like you said, like we age and our tastes age. Like that movie ages so good, because what I realized is I went and saw that in the theaters. It was around my senior year. It was 1992. I remember it was in a dumpy theater in Waco, Texas. There was this might have added like, this was way before 4D, but there was a hole in the ceiling and it was raining. So there's water dropping in our theater. So it was not a 4D experience that you want. But
Right.
I went into this movie wanting to see Evil Dead 2. You know, I wasn't I was like, oh, it's going to be bloody and scary. And when it opens with him at the, you know, Shop S Smart, I'm like, what's happening? And I sat through it, but I was like, we're in the Dark Ages, we're knights and castles. I was like, this is stupid. And I left the movie highly disappointed. And again, this is when I'm 18, and you know, and I'm not really understanding it, but as I watch the movies and start to fall in love more and more with the entire franchise and with Sam Raimi's vision, I've realized I love Ash Williams. So you can put him, you know, being ridiculous, or you can put, and still there's so many, the quotables, you know, like, yo, she bitch, let's dance. Or, you know, the witch, like they, in the video game, they've taken the witch and she's a complete demon. She has this whole, you know, story, and she's got the pit monster, and she was on the screen about 15 seconds before he blows her away, you know?
Right.
But that witch, you know, it's such a cool story. And one of my favorite little things that Josh would probably have on backlot, but when you see like there's a cave that they show it, like where the Delta, where he hides the Delta, or where it crashes, that's the Batman cave from 66 Batman.
Wow.
Yeah, it's and I can't think of the name of it right now, but it's in several movies. It's been in movies forever, and it's the same cave that the Batmobile drives out of. So I love that about that, you know, that's
Absolutely.
an Army of Darkness. And there's so many good lines and quotes, and it is cool. Like you said, he becomes a hero, you know. At first they don't. One of my favorite scenes is when they're telling him, this is exactly how you have to repeat the words, you know, you repeat Klaatu, Barada, Nikto, or whatever. He's like, I got it. And then he goes up there and he can't remember it, and he keeps fumbling it. And then, you know, you get the little mini ashes and all the hilarity ensues, but just so funny again. Like, and like you said, if you almost have to, if you don't love the franchise, you're not going to love Army of Darkness. But then the more you just really settle into the series and you see the things that you love about it, and then how cool that they did go back in time, you know, like that's really neat. And then that does kind of open up those 3 books that kind of allow the story to really branch out. Because Sam said something on one of our shows once. He said, I realized that everybody wants Bruce Campbell, and you got to have Ash, and you got to have Ash. And he's like, but eventually you can't, like, where else can you go? People age and things like this. And so I want the series to survive. I want Sam Raimi's vision to grow, and let's have some funny time travel, and then let's have some, darker stuff again.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a really solid trilogy in that it gives you Sam Raimi in 3 different stages, or 3 different versions of Sam Raimi's visual style, humor, and all that in one series. And it really plays with the genre. I think the later movies are leaning really heavy into the horror and kind of grabbing hold of that. But there's always room for Army of Darkness to pop pop up.
And in Sam Raimi's defense, a thing that I learned about in that, I think it's if Chins Could Kill, but it's in several different tellings, is what happened is, and I think it was Paramount, whoever the production company was, like, he's got big boy Hollywood money now, but what that means is you lose creative control, so they're like, no, you got to have this, or you got to do that. Like, you got too many cooks in the kitchen. And they're like, we're going to give you this big pile of money to play with, but we get to say some things that you do with it. And so it's almost like Sam Raimi filtered, behind that corporate Hollywood filter. And that's unfortunate, but still it does have an audience, and there's people that's their favorite one, that Army of Darkness is their favorite. But I will say, yeah, that's what happens when you start to get, big companies and big money, and the people that are not creative, but they hold the purse strings, and then the story suffers, or can suffer, but it's found its audience, like you said. And we came around, didn't we?
Yeah, for sure. You just have to be in the right headspace and not expect, like you said, you can't expect Evil Dead 3. It's not Evil Dead 3. Just like Evil Dead 2 isn't the Evil Dead sequel. It's like its own thing,
That's perfect. That's a perfect way to think of it. I like how you said that.
Cool. Very cool. That's awesome. So, Josh, let's hear the backlot breakdown for Army of Darkness, 1992.
Yeah, such a fun movie. I mean, like, going back, and I hadn't seen it in a long time. I'd only seen bits and pieces early on at the video store, but going back and actually like sitting and rewatching it, it was so much fun. And the version, because I thought I had it in my collection, but I didn't. And it is funny because not until the recording date did they were gonna have all the Evil Dead movies on HBO, like the day we were recording. But before that, like, I couldn't find them on streaming unless you like rented them or whatever. So I own most of them except for I didn't own Army of Darkness, but I did just find the Blu-ray at Walmart for like $8, like
Nice.
a couple days ago. So I should have checked there first, but it was kind of cool. I found this website that like has VHS copies that they just put for free on. It's almost like a library. So they had a VHS copy of Army of Darkness, which was kind of fun because it was kind of TV show looking and like grainy, and it made it a little bit more fun. But yeah, just a really fun movie. There's actually 4 cuts of this movie, believe it or not. There's an 81-minute theatrical release in the US. There's an 88-minute international release. There's a 96-minute director's cut. And then there's an 88-minute TV version as well. And then I don't know if that's the same, because I know the Blu-ray that they put out more recently, like the last 10, 15 years, that one has called the Screwhead Edition, Army of Darkness. So I don't know if that's considered the director's cut or if that's a completely different version. They say the director's cut is the most complete version, but the TV version actually has 2 complete deleted scenes in it. So that one would be fun to go back and rewatch. In Japan, they released this movie as Captain Supermarket because, Ash,
it opens. Yeah.
because Ash was, he worked at the supermarket and everything. Yeah. So I thought that was really funny. And then when Ash's shoulder grows, grows an ash like out of his eye. That was an homage to the Manster, which is a 1959 Japanese horror film. B horror film. So I guess that was an homage to that. I know Sam Raimi was big into like not necessarily like Japanese horror at the time, but he was he loves like comic books and stuff like that. So I'm sure that popped up on his radar. Well, this is the first and only movie in his whole career that Bruce Campbell is the lead actor, basically. I mean, like, I guess he technically would be for like Evil Dead 1 and 2, but this is like the first movie where he's like top billing and like the star of the movie, which is crazy because he's had a long career and been on many TV shows and done different things. But I guess if they're counting movies, because TV shows he was the lead on Ad- uh, Adventures of, I forget the name of the TV show,
Babysitting?
but no, it was like a Western show.
Okay.
The Adventures of something Bosco or Briscoe County Jr. Adventures of Briscoe County Jr. I think that was what it was called.
Okay.
But I'm pretty sure he was the lead in that. So the guy who comes out of the wall that attacks Ash in the pit, like when he gets thrown in the pit, while the crowd of people and stuff. And that was Billy Bryan, who was actually the actor who wore the Stay Puft Marshmallow costume in Ghostbusters. Like he's like the actual Stay Puft Marshmallow guy. So I
Nice.
thought that was pretty fun. And you know, we were talking about it earlier with Chris, but Sam and Bruce both love like the Three Stooges and slapstick comedy and stuff like that. This movie is the most slapstick of all the first trilogy, but like in the best way possible. I mean, like the sound effects and just the corniness of the fights and stuff. It's just super fun. But this movie blends kind of a lot of all the stuff that Raimi loves so much.
Mhm.
He loved Ray Harryhausen. So there's a lot of stop motion, like some of the like skeletons and the Deadite stuff is all stop motion. So like I thought that was really fun. Because the early days of like Ray Harryhausen was like super cool. Like if you go back and rewatch the creatures that they made and the battle sequences and stuff, it's super cool. So that was kind of a model, like the slapstick and the stop motion and all that was kind of a model for the TV shows that Sam Raimi would produce
Mhm.
not too long after Army of Darkness, which were Xena, Warrior Princess, and Hercules. He was a main producer on those shows, and his brother Ted was obviously in both of those shows, I believe.
That's cool.
But yeah, you can definitely see where I think Army of Darkness was kind of like the blueprint for what would become the TV shows Xena and Hercules, which is you can definitely tell when you go back and watch Army of Darkness, like see a lot of similarity. I was just waiting for Xena to come in and make her little like forgot, but yeah, it was fun. So Army of Darkness is a super fun movie, especially early '90s, and it almost doesn't fit in the Evil Dead franchise, but it's great that it is in the Evil Dead franchise. So especially if you love Ash, like it's just such a almost like reinvented
Mhm.
version of Ash, and
Kinda like a Elseworlds or like a What If,
yeah,
kinda like
like an
just
alternate yeah, it's
let's put
kind of
Ash
crazy,
let's
but
put Ash back in medieval times and see what
yeah,
happens, you know? Yeah.
yeah, but
That's cool.
super fun. I mean, it's like there's a lot of cool like just scenes that are just so much fun, and I kept when I was rewatching it, I forget the character's name, but there's like the old man with the robe on and the white beard. And that I'm pretty sure that's the guy from Seinfeld that Elaine worked for,
Oh, nice. Yeah.
the
Mhm.
magazine guy.
Yeah.
So I was laughing because like every time he came on screen, I couldn't stop thinking of Seinfeld. But
Yeah, and George saying, "Was that wrong?"
yeah,
'Cause,
yeah,
I mean, I have to prove ignorance here, you know? My last
yeah.
job, this stuff happened all the time.
Well, and then like Elaine gets fired because they misinterpret. She's like on the phone with Jerry, and some lady that works for that same guy comes in and overhears her saying, but she thinks she's talking about like killing the
Mhm.
dude or whatever. And she's like talking to Jerry about something completely different.
I know.
And
That
it's just
show.
set up so perfectly.
I know. It's awesome. Very cool. Thanks, Josh.
Yeah.
Let's kind of jump ahead to Evil Dead 2013. Fede Alvarez shows up on the scene, and we get an Evil Dead. It was advertised as a remake, and a lot of it feels that way. It feels like it's going to start there, and it does feel like a lot of the same beats are hit as the first movie. It's a group of friends. They're going to stay at this cabin because one of the girls is trying to get off of drugs, and so they're going to stay at the cabin until she's done with the drugs. But then they find a book, and one of the guys reads from the book, and of course we know what's going to happen. That's going to unlock the Deadites, and they're going to come after, and they're going to turn one of them into the Deadite. And then she is the one that's trying to get off of drugs is the one that gets kind of turned and possessed. And then everything is they're all trying to stop her or to try to protect her. Her brother that's trying to save her from the possession, and not kind of, it seems like there's no use except for Ash and Evil Dead 2. There's really no way to get rid of the possession.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens as it progresses, but it definitely feels like it's really difficult to get rid of possession. So you just have to do what needs to be done, and they can't because they love her and they want to try and save her, and then it all kind of balloons up. And again, some of the very cool Evil Deadisms. We've got the flying Deadites. We've got the massive amounts of blood. We've got all of the crazy violence and the stuff that the friends are trying to do to try and save her, but they can't because she's gone, and she's bouncing back into, using that manipulation of bouncing back into her normal voice. And then it's just crazy. You want to kind of kick us off with what stands out to you about Evil Dead 2013?
Yeah, well, I kind of took a break from horror from like 2004 to like 2015. I didn't take a break. I just felt like it got kind of stale and tired. And so I missed this one altogether when it first came out. But so when I came back to it, I had started falling in love with Evil Dead, and it was, getting ahead of Freddy and Jason and Hellraiser. And like Evil Dead was making its way back to the top of my Mount Rushmore or whatever. And so I was like, okay, what do you got? And I do really appreciate, one, that it's modernized. It's a Evil Dead for, this is not 1980, not your grandfather's Evil Dead. It's modern. They have like you mentioned, the drug addiction story arc, which is very modern day, like relatable, unfortunately, probably for some people. And but they still captured that, like Fede Alvarez and company, like really captured that Evil Dead to me. Like you said, it's still Evil Dead. And I just love Jane Levy as Mia. I got to meet her at a Frightmare a few years ago. She's adorable. She's super short, and she was so nice. I had her sign my Necronomicon, and I don't know if it's a slow burn, but I mean, there's plenty of action and gore, and it's very bloody. But for me, like at the end, everybody thinks, she got her hand cut off, like she's gonna do the Ash thing or whatever, but not really. But still, like when she runs that chainsaw into that Deadite's face at the end, I think it says something, "We'll feast on your soul," and she says, "Feast on this," and just runs. I mean, that's like they spent all their money on that special effect, and it shows. Like that's the end of a horror movie. Like there's no comedy in this. This is back to Evil Dead, the first one, because I do think the first one tried to be just scary. The second one was mixing the humor and horror, which is Sam Raimi's kind of like his that's his trademark, and just his sense of humor and his style. And then Army of Darkness, it's almost like the too hot, too cold, Goldilocks. One's too scary, one's just right, one's too funny, and then so this one we're resetting in 2013, and we're back to scary. We're gonna make it scary, and you're gonna want to know you're gonna want to know how this one ends.
Yeah, exactly. A couple of the standouts for me too was it brought back of course it was in 1 and 2, but the trees going after her and wrapping her up, and that was
very scary.
Yeah, very scary. I think one of my favorites was the nail gun moments where she just empties a clip of nails.
So cool.
Cool visuals there. And it looks like, I thought it was funny too, like when they showed up at the cabin, it looks like it's already been like through the ringer already. It
Yeah.
looks so like, why did they pick this cabin? Like,
Yeah,
who
this
in the world?
Airbnb Airbnb did
It was
not say what it was.
exactly. But that's, I think, where some of it comes from, where it's like feels like it might be a remake at the start, you know?
Yeah.
And then it plays within that world of the Evil Dead franchise. But I thought that was fun. The bridge is flooded instead of being destroyed and uprooted. The trees are coming after. That's very normal. And then the pages. I think this is the first time that I recall the pages in the book are showing the different things that are tormenting the person. I don't think that was in 1 and 2, was it?
Yeah, and if it was, like, I've seen like some of those original pages, and I have a prop. It's not screen realistic, but I mean, it has some of the images that someone took like screenshots and recreated them. But I think you're right, like, because they just flash. In the first ones, it never stays on any page that long. Like,
Yeah.
there's obviously the page where it shows the chosen one, and it's a guy with a chainsaw on his arm.
Yeah.
But like you said, a lot of it's more generic, just skulls and
Yeah.
and demons and all that Sumerian or whatever that
Yeah.
text is, that
Yeah.
hieroglyphics, so to
So
speak.
he kind of is introducing a new thing to the book. And I think that's cool because he's going to take it to another level. And then Rise even captures that and does that even more. Multiple times in Rise, you see that. So that's why I couldn't remember. I mean, I just recently watched them, but I didn't remember any of the books until the Evil Dead, where it's actually like 1-to-1 of like, oh, this book is showing the torment. So I thought that
Yeah.
was a
And
cool
I think
kind of new wrinkle to the.
I feel
to
like
the
it may
mythology.
show, like you said, like, okay, how fire can beat them or tame them, and burial, like underground, bury
Yeah.
the body. I think this is the one, like you said, it really illustrates it and
Yeah.
shows that the book is more instructional and not just a pages of question marks.
Yeah.
It seems
Exactly.
easier to follow.
Yeah.
The book
Yeah,
does.
absolutely. I don't know what people thought of going into this one. I don't know if they thought it was going to be bad because maybe they were kind of tired of remakes, but I know when I watched it, not right when it came out, but soon after it came out, and I was like, this is really, really good. And even rewatching it for this, I thought this is some great scares, great horror, great gore, and feels like a very modernized, like new era Evil Dead to like take the heart and the passion of Sam Raimi's and like
Yeah.
tell it in a new modern context.
Yeah, and you mentioning the nail gun, to me, that's kind of like the start. I don't know if it's the start, but it's like taking the least suspected tool and
Mhm.
turn it into a weapon or a torture device or what, and then now we've got, not to get ahead of ourselves, but we've got cheese graters and,
Yep.
dishwashers with the knives up, like things, car seats are coming into the new
Yeah.
movie. So that nail gun, like like, I don't know if that's been used before in a movie or as a weapon that way, but how cool, what a memorable moment. And so I feel like Fetty kind of gets some credit for taking something unsuspecting, but if you're being attacked, you're going to use whatever you got. So if there's a nail gun there, unload the clip.
Yeah. I will say I was going to look up The Equalizer because that's the only other movie I remember the nail gun. So that was 2014.
Okay.
So the next year, now it might have happened before.
Sure, we don't know, but
people might have done the nail gun
Yes.
as a weapon before, but
right.
Evil Dead 2013 uses it, and then Equalizer Denzel uses it in the
That's
Home
true.
Depot scene, and
Yeah.
that's just fire. So
That
so
is
great.
badass.
So great. Yeah, one of the other things I thought was interesting, and I didn't have time to research it, but the lullaby that the mom that he hears, the brother
Yeah.
hears, is that the same lullaby that she's singing in Evil Dead Rise?
Think it may be.
It
Well, that's a
makes
good
sense that it
question.
would be. Let me
Yeah.
look it up and see.
Yeah. Do, because like I said, this is like, I've maybe watched 2013 twice. And again, it's not because I don't love it. I mean, front to back, I've watched it,
Yeah.
through twice, and then I've watched clips a lot. But it's one that I don't get tired of, and I would definitely. And so I want to watch. I'd like to know more of like the Easter eggs or the little small connections like that.
Let's see. No, the lullabies are two different songs.
Okay.
The character Mia sings "Baby Little Baby" to her brother, and then so even if it's not the same song, it's still interesting dynamic.
Well, and
It's added.
whatever Henrietta sings, the Hush Little Baby or whatever that one that,
That's
the
right.
Mockingbird song. So the lullaby
Yeah.
theme, I would say the lullaby theme definitely carries throughout, even if they're different, songs. Like, and it goes
100%.
back to where you were talking about how they flash from good to bad. Henrietta's possessed, and then she's saying, "Annie, don't you remember?" And she starts singing that, "Buy You a Diamond Ring" or whatever, however it
Yeah.
goes. And so I would say lullaby. That's intentional. I think
Yeah,
that's an intentional
absolutely. And not
bridge.
until right now did I realize that
We both
was
we just learned.
an
We
evil
just
deadism, right?
Yeah.
It's that kind of. I think that's what's interesting about these sequels, these later sequels, is that it's kind of like it's paying homage and it's honoring the first one and kind of reinventing it, but it still is straight up Evil Dead, and it's just really really great. Anything more about 2013?
I don't think so. Like I said, I love that chainsaw to the Deadite's face at the end. That's what really makes
Yeah.
me like a true like final girl badass. Like, people are like, "What? It's a girl hero in the Evil Dead." It's like, she's awesome, man. Like, wielding that chainsaw.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Evil Dead 2013. Josh, what you got for the backlot breakdown?
Man, this is talk about a fun gore fest. The Evil Dead remake, or not a remake, or
Yeah.
whatever you want to call it. This movie is so much fun. I remember when it was first coming out, like it had been a while since, it had been a long time since Army of Darkness had even come out. So the fact that we were getting a new movie called Evil Dead was crazy. And then the first trailer dropped, and I remember everybody being like, "Man, this is like pretty dark." Like Evil Dead was more, it was dark, but it was more fun and animated and stuff. And then the movie came out, and I remember I was living in Colorado, and they did a screening at CU Boulder in I didn't get to go to it, but two of my friends did, and it was in like a lab or something
Mm.
on the campus. So like they screened the movie, so like you could get a ticket, and like they screened it early for everybody, like in this classroom at CU Boulder, which was that would have probably been really fun. But
Yeah.
yeah, this was really the first introduction to Fede Alvarez that we got. He had made some short films, and I forget the name of the movie that he made that pretty much got him this movie, but he, went on to do Don't Breathe, which was really fun, and he did obviously Alien Romulus, which I really loved, and I think he's a fantastic director, but
Mm-hmm.
he did such a good job with Evil Dead. I mean, talk about anybody who loves practicality and practical effects, like that's my jam. Like this movie is purely, there's not very much CGI in this movie at all. Like
Mm-hmm.
from the trees attacking, the acting by like Jane Levy is so good in this movie. Like I don't think she gets enough roles. I think I don't want her to get typecasted, because I'm sure she can do more than just horror, but she's so good. And obviously he cast her in Don't Breathe as well.
Mm-hmm.
But at the time, that was the record breaker for the most gallons of fake blood. I think they said 70,000 was like the total amount. They used 50,000 gallons just for the final scene alone, which you just think about that. That's a lot. It's a lot of fake blood. And then we obviously had our creators conversation with the now record holders of the Iron Lung. We had
Mm-hmm.
Jason and Anna on, and they broke that record at 80,000 gallons of fake blood. So pretty nuts. But the first letters of each of the main characters, the 5 main characters, actually spells demon. So David, Eric, what's her name? Mia, Olivia, and Natalie. So it spells their first letters spell out demon. And then, yeah, like I was saying, like almost the entire movie, I don't know what the percentage of the movie is. That's not CGI, but it's got to be over 90% for sure. I think they said the only real heavy CGI they had to do was some of the fire, and then they had to like remove some wiring and stuff for some of the scenes. But other
Mhm.
than that,
Sure.
a lot of it was practically built, and Fetty is really good at that too. I mean, obviously we got to see what he did with Alien Romulus and
Yeah.
bringing back that old practicality like the original Alien, so that's really cool. Yeah, he got this job. Fetty got this job. He did a 5-minute short film called Panic Attack. So if you get a chance, go watch that. That kind of like got him noticed by Hollywood and stuff. And then he got this job. An uncredited person that worked on the screenplay is actually Diablo Cody, which is kind of a random. That's just a very random person to work
Yeah.
on an Evil Dead movie, but I guess they came in and touched up the script, so that's pretty fun.
Mhm.
This came out in 2013, but actually 10 years prior, that was in development, and Ashton Kutcher was gonna star in it. Marlon Wayans was also considered, but they would have been like a new version of Ash. I guess Ash would have come back for that version, which is
Okay.
crazy. And then one last thing, one of the directors that actually turned this movie down was Park Chan-wook, who recently had that huge hit movie, No Other Choice. But
Mhm.
he's also done a lot of great work. But I guess he was originally tapped to direct, and he turned it down at the time. So I mean, that would have been interesting to see what he would have done. But I think they made a great choice with Fetty. And we got to see Jane kind of break out in her role. It was good that it wasn't a remake, like an exact remake of the OG, I think, and I think the Evil Dead fans really appreciate that, and they also, I mean, because it's hard to, especially like Bruce Campbell is such a unique actor first off, and like that character of Ash is just so unique. Like, I don't know if they would want to
Try.
ever like
Yeah.
remake it completely. So I think it's cool the direction they're going, like keeping it in the Evil Dead universe, but like not. I mean, what they did with the TV show Ash vs. Evil Dead, I think was really cool. Like that was a fun way for like the OG fans to
Mhm.
kind of have something new with him and his world of the Evil Dead. But then the movie versions are like they're kind of going off on their own
Mhm.
story that mixes in the OG like tales of Evil Dead.
Right.
But yeah, I'm super excited to see what they do with the next two because they already have the next one after Burns already
Mhm.
filmed, so or
Yeah.
they're about to start filming. So
Yeah. And
crazy.
one other thing about Jane Levy is that I had seen her first in this, obviously, but I didn't recognize her. But I saw her and I recognize her from Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist. So talk about
Oh yeah,
the range of being this incredibly demonic, possessed, scary girl, drug addict, and then being this nice, polite little singing little young girl that's at an advertising firm. Then it's a musical TV show that was on Hulu. I think it was only Hulu exclusive. It wasn't even aired on network TV or anything. But yeah, I thought that was a cute show. It was kind of like or not Pitch Perfect, like Glee in real
oh
life,
yeah,
because it was like they were singing, in in the show, but it was a fun show. We watched it. We enjoyed it for just kind of a lighthearted kind of thing. So talk about you mentioned her range, and so I wanted to make sure I
yeah. No,
piggybacked on that. Yeah.
she's really good. Yeah, I haven't seen all her roles, but I mean, just the few that I have seen, I'm like, man, she's. I just don't know why she doesn't get. I know she just had a baby last year, I think. So I think she's kind of like taking a little hiatus from acting, but
Yeah. Very cool. Thanks, Josh.
yeah.
Well, let's jump to it. The most recent Evil Dead movie came out in 2023. This one was by Lee Cronin, who most recently this year released The Mummy. Lee Cronin's The Mummy. I didn't have a chance to watch that one, but I've heard that
Same.
he kind of plays an homage to Evil Dead in that film as well, and that it could be in the same universe as his Evil Dead movie. So
I
I
heard
think that's
that.
kind of interesting.
I heard that
Um,
on your podcast, and it makes me want to watch it.
Yeah.
That he and I did read. I saw articles where he said he was like my mummy is a deadite, kind of, and not so many
Yeah.
words, but he did say that it could be that, and I was like, okay, I'm so in, and
Yeah.
especially because he directed this one that we're about to discuss a little bit. So yeah,
Absolutely. Absolutely. So this one, I think, where Evil Dead 2013 paid homage to the original by kind of starting where it started, a cabin in the woods. Evil Dead Rise takes the Evil Dead template, Evil Deadisms, and brings them into a city. It starts with one of the best bait and switches ever, because it starts with that camera shot that we know and love. We've already
Yes.
talked about it. The camera's flying through the woods, and we're like,
Buckle up.
here we go. It's going to start good. We're starting good. And then all of a sudden, nope, it's a drone. It's a drone.
Yeah,
and
so you're like,
and you're just like, what a great bait and switch.
so good.
And also it starts kind of, it's this other house in the woods. It's more like a TP or like an A-frame house. It's a cabin in the woods. And then everything just goes, the girl's already possessed. She's already taken out her friend. She takes out her best friend. She takes out her boyfriend. And then they throw her in the river, and then she rises from the river. And then that awesome title card, Evil Dead
I love
Rise.
it.
Like one of the best cold opens ever. Honestly,
Ever.
so great.
Yes.
I know a lot of people like the Scream cold opening scene, which I will say that's number one. This has got to be close to number 2 or number 3. Like it's
Very close. Yeah.
just
And well, in
beautiful.
that Evil Dead always has at least, like, Evil Dead's gross, right? Like every Evil Dead is really gross. Like that's part of a trademark, but there's things that are gross. There's usually 2 or 3 things that are much grosser. And that scalping at the beginning, like I was like, holy crap. Like this, we're not even like 3 minutes into the movie.
Yeah,
Someone got scalped.
we're already in it. I did think it was funny that the friend was reading Wuthering Heights, because that movie just came out this year. So
Oh, that's right.
go check out Wuthering Heights with Margaret
That's
Robbie
right.
and Jacob Elordi. But yeah, I thought that was fun. I wondered what kind of book she was reading, because I paused and rewound. I was like, what book is that? Just because I thought there may be some sort of thing that he's playing with.
Yeah.
With the book choice. And then movie cuts from that kind of opening thing and says 1 day earlier, and you're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Jumps to another girl, another lady. She's in the bathroom. She's taking a pregnancy test to find out she's pregnant. And then she has to go to her sister's house. They've been estranged for a long time. Her sister has 3 kids. One is a DJ. That stuff was pretty awesome. One of them's, I think, the older girl is a really responsible first child. And then they've got the youngest daughter who's cutting the doll's heads off and making her best friend Stephanie, because she makes a wooden staff with a baby head on it. This is going to protect us. I thought, foreshadowing, this is going to come back and play later. I thought the records was great. There ends up being an earthquake in this apartment complex. The son and the youngest daughter go down. Actually, it's all of them. They're down in the basement or in the parking lot, and they find a book. They find what's the book's name?
The Necronomicon or Ex Mortis or Book of the Dead. It's got kind of,
they find a bank vault. It's got the Necronomicon. It's got records this time, not audio tapes, but it's got the vinyls. He's a DJ, so it makes sense. Let me go up and let me listen to them.
Yeah.
He plays them through his sound system. We got it's all going downhill now. We know.
Yeah.
No.
Here's the story. Yeah. Well, and what I didn't know, this is not, I don't want to steal from Backlot Breakdown, but when the movie ended, I was like, man, I was bummed. I was hoping for some Bruce Campbell, and we're watching the credits. He's the voice on the record. Like, that's Bruce Campbell narrating, and I didn't even pick it up. I didn't pick that up at all. So we can double check that, but I'm 99.95% sure that Bruce Campbell is the voice on the records. I think, and if I'm wrong, come for us in the comments. It's okay to get it wrong. But I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure that's and so that was really cool about the records. And again, a modern take where, like, we've seen vinyl make a resurgence a couple of times, but now I think vinyl's back big now. And it's just like, that's cool that it's on instead of a reel to reel, because nobody's rocking reel to reels. And anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to stop us down, but
no, you're fine. I think I really like the fact that when it was played at normal speed, it was really slow and sounded wrong, and so he had to kind of manually. I thought that was a really cool, like, effect that he had to do it manually. So he's making the choice.
He wants
physically. He's not passively like playing. He's like, I just thought that was a cool vibe to it. Also, one of the other things is that he's trying to open the book, and the blood gets on the book and that's it's soaked in, and then that unlocks
Yes.
the book. So that's a new thing added to the mythology.
Yes. Very Little Shop of Horrors to me, you know,
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
book had teeth, you know, on the bindings. I think the spine,
Yeah.
not the spine, but the openings kind of had like teeth.
Mhm.
So that's what tells me, yeah, there's definitely they're playing with that three. They took that 3-book deal, and this isn't your mom's Necronomicon or you know
Yeah.
from the original series. So
Yeah, for sure. I'll finish this off. So I'm just like, there's so many good spots,
yeah,
but basically the mom ends up becoming the Deadite, and she ends up terrorizing the whole family. And the sister that we met at the beginning that found out she was pregnant, she ends up trying to protect everybody, and she doesn't do a great job. She can't do it. She does get out with the youngest daughter, and then the movie ends with a girl coming from another apartment in the same complex, going down to the parking garage, seeing the remnants of all the fighting and all the blood, and then a Deadite crashing into her, and then it cuts, and it's like, well, that's how the Deadite got into her, and
yes,
so that kind of tees back to the opening scene. So I thought that was really clever to have the opening scene not be our main characters, but
yes.
still do a one day earlier, because you think, oh, one day, okay, cool, we're going to see how this person got it, and then you don't. I'm like, who are these people?
Yeah,
You
wait,
know?
what? Yeah, where are they are gonna come from? Like what I want to know more about that.
Yeah, exactly. So it kind of it allows you as a Evil Dead fan we've seen that before. We've seen that before.
Yeah.
The cabin in the woods. Let's
Yeah.
give you that in 5 minutes, and now we're going to show you a story that's completely different context, but it has all the same features of an Evil Dead.
Yeah, and it's still claustrophobic because you're in this dingy, dirty, I don't know if it's in Chicago. I don't know where it takes place, but and then that it's just the architecture is creepy when they show the exteriors of that building. I had the opportunity to meet Alyssa Sutherland at Days of the Dead Houston, and she was amazing. She has like it's New Zealand or Australian, but her accent is it just makes you melt just to talk to her. And she wanted to see. I told her, I said, Sam Raimi signed this. You know, want to get your autograph, and she said, I want to see where Sam signed it. And she found it, and he wrote "Burn this book," but she wrote, okay. She goes, can I just write whatever? And I said, yeah, you pick a page. I don't care. And she wrote. From your favorite maggot mommy, you know, Alyssa
Oh,
Sutherland.
wow.
And she wrote a lot of stuff, but she was so cool. But I love her portrayal in that movie with and Sam and I talk about this too, but the peephole scene and the way her eyes look. And I don't know, she did a lot of her own stunts where that scene where she drops, or I guess where she pops out of the bathtub, it was filmed in reverse. I think they dropped her in and reversed it, but just so it's a lot of physical, which every Evil Dead movie is, but Alyssa Sutherland really did well as far, you know, and a lot of people kick this movie in the backside for whatever reason. And I mean, I like that movies are subjective, you know, it's
Sure.
not for everyone, but I think if you are, again, and just like I said about Army of Darkness, if you love Evil Dead, there's something for you to love in Evil
Mhm.
Dead Rise, you know,
Yes.
and it's just so, like I said, it's still claustrophobic. You think, oh, it's in a high rise. Well, but yeah, I want to see what happens in these different settings, you know.
Mhm.
I want to know more.
It kind of reminds me of like the Quiet Place movies, where it's like,
Yes.
this is the first one and the second one are like very much like similar stories. First one, actually, you're stuck on a farm the whole movie. Second one is like, oh, there's more people, so that
Yes.
it's traveling, and it's like, and then you got Day One, which is like a prequel back to like what happened, and now they're coming out with Quiet Place Part 3, and it's like they're like, and he's talked about it even that he wants to see other directors and other writers come up with their own ideas for A Quiet Place. What this is America in these set of movies, but what is happening in South Africa? What's happening in Japan? Like what, you know, and like really kind of you could tell it from any perspective. And that was one of the
Yeah.
things I loved about this one, because it still had the cables from the building still grabbing her, the elevator still grabbing her like the tree limbs grabbed in the first movies. You know, you're still getting those moments like when she's like all cockeyed and stuff in the elevator because
Yes.
they've got a hold of her now. I thought she was scary. Oh my goodness, she was so
Very
scary.
scary.
Great lines, great presentation, everything.
Yeah, I think just talking about the remake thing again, like how we talked about 2013 was not really a remake, or people may have shied away because it was a remake. And I used to be that same guy. I'm like, don't remake Halloween, don't remake this, don't remake that. Well, I guess again, this comes with old age, but nothing. Let them remake it. Let them, let it not be like there's nothing wrong. Like they're not saying, okay, we're taking this away. You can never watch John Carpenter's Halloween again, and here's what you have to watch. That's not it. Like if you don't like it, just don't watch it. Don't go hate on it and raise your blood pressure and get mad. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
and I mean, I'm there's certain movies where I'm just not a fan of, and I just don't talk about it or I don't go to it. But like, this is a great movie, and no, it's not Evil Dead 2, but that's because Evil Dead 2's already been done. I don't want to see
Right.
a shot for shot, like Gus Van Zant's shot for shot of Psycho with Vince Vaughn. Like, cool, he did that because he's like, I got all this money, I can do whatever I want. So good for him. But like, I want to see something original and new, like you said, and Easter eggs or things that they borrow or take and different spins on it. That's what I like.
So a lot of the other Evil Deadisms are the blood coming out of the mouth, vomiting out of the mouth, just craziness in droves. That happened. I've got the quote here when she's like, "Mommy's with the maggots now." Just like so creepy. That whole thing, it felt so scared and so sad for the daughter. Like, don't open the door. Like when she's like, no, mommy's fine. Daddy's here too. Like, no, like so manipulative, man.
And that little girl, what a great actor. Cause when she goes, Mom, you don't look so good. Like she sold that. Like, I mean, she looked genuinely scared, and she probably was because of the prosthetics, but what a great acting by all.
Well, I know that the elevator scene, when they finally get into it, they're trying to get away and the blood fills up the elevator. I'm like, I'd be scared just looking at all that. And then I thought that may have been a Shining homage when
I think so.
It crashes down and the doors open.
I like to think I'm going to say it is, whether it was accidental or intentional. I feel like that was a little nod or a tip of the cap, to and cool to me. I mean, I love that. It's just saying that's showing some inspiration. Like what got these directors was they saw The Shining when they were little. So
we did get a boomstick. We did get a chainsaw. Yeah, we did get Staffany. Staffany came.
We got Staffany,
and it is interesting too. Like the headshots with the shotgun and with the staff stop them, and the scissors too. The scissors it stops them, but it's just you're just getting a break. They're not gone forever. You're just getting a timeout.
Yes,
so you can figure out another plan while they're just laying there. I thought that was interesting. And then I'm maybe blanking, but does Bruce say, "Come get some" in Army of Darkness?
Come get some. Yeah, I think that's from Army of Darkness.
And so
I think he says it to the witch. I think he goes, "Yo, she bitch, let's dance" or something. And then I think that's right. But then the "come get some" is right before he fires off a round, I believe. Yeah. I think that's right.
Yeah, I think so. Well, because she says it at the end of this movie, and it's just so perfect.
I love it.
Crazy creature of all the dead neighbors that she's killed and everything all kind of form into one creepy tarantula looking.
That's the first time you see that kind of thing too, and I'm here for it.
Yeah, and then the wood chipper finale.
Yeah, wood chipper finale when they went full Fargo.
Yeah. So.
And then you've got your your practical whatever's laying around, the cheese grater, the tattoo gun. I think that's part of the eye stuff, maybe. Because one of they took the story of that the sister was practicing to be a tattoo artist on the side, I think.
Yeah.
Again, if memory serves, but that's how I remember it. But yeah, there's all those common things that they turn into something super uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I can't grab a cheese grater ever again without thinking of that. I'm just like, ah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and then like I said, you get Jessica at the end showing up and going screaming because she's seen all the blood, and then she gets taken over. So crazy.
Let's jump into backlot breakdown for Evil Dead Rise.
All right, yeah, another like I talked about earlier. I mean, I'm excited to see where this is going to go with like Burns and stuff, but Evil Dead Rise was It's pretty solid. I mean, if you ask most fans, like they all really liked it. I mean, it didn't, break any records or anything, but it's just super fun. And I mean, it's still, I think I see it pop up on Instagram all the time, but it definitely is in the running for like the best opening title sequence of all time. Cause like
Yeah.
that I was just rewatching it again, and sometimes I'll just throw like that intro on just because it's just so cool. But for all of you, I'm assuming if you're watching this episode, you've seen all these movies. But the main girl at the beginning rises out of the water and she's possessed, and then behind the trees they pan up from the water and the trees and her floating above the water. And then it says Evil Dead Rise, like it comes out of the trees, like in this cool font. And man, it's the first time I saw it, I was like, I have never seen a title card like that's so cool. But everybody raves about that title card, and for good reason, because it's super awesome. This one was directed by Lee Cronin, who recently did Lee Cronin's The Mummy. I still have not seen that, but I've heard mixed reviews, but I heard it's more of a Evil Dead movie than it is a Mummy movie from what I've heard so far. So I do want to see it. I'll wait till it hits streaming, but he did a great job with this movie. There's some crazy, the acting's all really good. What I forget the girl's name. Is it Alyssa Sutherland? Is the mom, like the main girl, I think. But she's very creepy. She does all the stuff you need her to do in a horror movie. She's super spooky. This also has an anagram of demon. The building that they live in, the apartment building, is named Monde, Monde. So it's an anagram for demon, which is crazy. This is the only Evil Dead film in the franchise that doesn't have the Oldsmobile car. Even like the 2013 at least had it pop up,
Mm-hmm.
There's a pizza place in the movie called Henrietta's, and that's an homage to Henrietta Nobi, who's the demon in Evil Dead 2.
Mm-hmm.
So they named the pizza place after that character. And then just one last thing, let's see, this is the second horror film to reference, what's her name, Emily Bronte, the Bronte sisters
Okay. Yeah.
novels like Jane Eyre, Wuthering Heights. So in the prologue, the daughter, I think, is reading
Well, the friend,
Wuthering Heights, or
it's the friend of the girl
yeah,
that
the
gets
friend,
possessed.
yeah. So she's reading Wuthering Heights, and then
Mhm.
in Barbarian, the Jack Kreger movie, Jane Eyre is shown in that, and then it's crazy. 3 years after Evil Dead Rise was released, we actually got a Wuthering Heights movie from Warner Brothers as well. So pretty funny how that all ties in such a short amount of time. But
Yeah.
yeah, Evil Dead Rise, super fun, but not quite as well. The blood level is not as much as like the 2013 one, but the gore and the crazy stuff that they do in Evil Dead Rise is like it's pretty intense at moments. But like I said, really great acting, great performances. It leaves you kind of, and the fact that it like takes place in an apartment building, which you would think there'd be more options to like go hide or get away or whatever. Like they do a good job of keeping the tension the entire
Yeah.
movie, and it kind of gets into it pretty fast. I mean, you don't have a lot of time to take a break from the screen, so it's a it's a fun one.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. And it definitely leads us into Evil Dead, Burn. Like I feel like it's gonna probably follow the same style of Evil Dead and Evil Dead Rise, where it's pretty gory, pretty bloody, and just scary, and not as campy as kind of the Army of Darkness. But it's definitely a fun ride. If you like scary movies and like horror movies, this is definitely a series you need to check out and see it in the theater. So
Well, I'm excited to see Evil Dead Burn. I think it's going to be awesome. It's
Do
going to
you
be,
think
you know,
this is what, and I'm trying, it's so hard nowadays to avoid spoilers, but still get as much as you can. Like, I'm going to watch all the trailers, but I try not to listen to what people think. But do you think that Evil Dead Burn is going to fill in the beginning and the end of Evil Dead Rise. That's what I'm hoping.
Okay.
I'm
I have not seen that. I have
Who
not
knows?
even watched I've seen the trailer,
Okay.
but I can't really tell from the trailer. It's just
I can't
creepy.
either. There's one
It's
scene
just
with water that makes
okay.
me think, "Ooh, is this?" But it could be like trailers are famous for misdirection too. So like they
Yeah.
want to make you, they want to get the chatter going. But what my hope is, I mean, I'm gonna love it, whatever it is. But I'm hoping we get that middle part to the beginning and the end, and maybe one of those the day before or the day after, we get that fill in the blank. I think that would be
Yeah,
cool.
for sure. Do you know if Bruce is going to be in this one?
I don't think so. I
Okay.
don't, unfortunately. And
I
then
only asked that because I saw a teaser poster that had a Bruce like in flames, like it was like so, but it could have just been a fan poster.
Well, and
So
it could be the best kept secret in
yeah,
Hollywood too. Like that's what I would hope is like we think no, he's not doing it, and then somehow he is. And one thing I've heard about Wrath, if we just hit on the final one because I think they're doing that back to back filming kind of stuff. Not that it has the same people in it, but I know they're trying to like use that production time. I have heard it's a prequel, Evil Dead Wrath, and again, my hope, and this is all conspiracy theories. I want it to be, and a bunch of people were like, prequel, meh, like I'm like, no, cool, like let's go backwards. And I hope what it is Professor Noby and Henrietta, you know, actually doing stuff in the Kandar Castle ruins and all the stuff you get to hear on the tapes in Evil Dead 1 and 2, you get to see play out because like they're going all the way into purchasing the same kind of film stock that was used in the 70s, so it looks like, I mean, that's cool to me. But and if it's a whole new original thing, like I don't need the origin of the Necronomicon, but I would love to I would love to see an original take too. But if Evil Dead Wrath has stuff to do with Professor Noby's adventure or more about, like, I want to see visuals and not just the little bits and pieces we've heard on the audio tapes. So
yeah,
I think it'd
that'd
be
be
fun.
awesome. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, before I let you go, man, I want to give you a chance to just share with the audience like what your channel is, what you guys focus on. I'd love to hear so they can
Yeah.
know how to follow you.
No, thank you very much. We're LazerWagon Official, heavily on Instagram and YouTube. We're LazerWagon Horror Podcast when we can. Life gets in the way, so it's hard for Sam and I to be in the same place at the same time. But we do love to get together and talk, so that's the podcast portion. It started because there's conventions I wanted to go to that I couldn't physically get to, like in California and different places. I could always hit my 3 here in Texas, but I would sit there on YouTube and I'd watch these people. Some would just do walkthroughs, some would vlog, combination of like what Horror Green Book does, and then a combination of, just somebody walking through. Or so what we like to do, what we try to do is we really want to focus on the cosplayers and the vendors because they're the breath and the life and the heartbeat of those conventions. Of course the celebrities are awesome, but we want to focus on the people that make it tick, and even the volunteers. Like we try to really have these conversations when we go to these conventions. So what I'm hoping to do with LazerWagon is if you couldn't make it to Spooky Empire last October, well, I got to go, and here's a brief look at what I saw, which is a small portion of the weekend. I can't capture the whole convention because I also, like I said, I stop myself anytime, especially if I'm out of state. I make myself like put the camera down and go enjoy the show for a minute. Like OKC Horror, I rarely do panels, but I want to be at every one of y'all's panel, and not just because it's y'all, it's because I want to spend more time in panels. I like that Brendan, I kind of rely on Horror Green Book for my panel experience because a lot of times when the panels are going on, I'm doing something else, so I'm thankful for channels like Brendan's that have a heavy focus, not just on the panels, but I like his panel coverage because I'm like, I couldn't do it. I was over here or I was in a line, so LazerWagon Official, we really love to shout out the cosplayers, and we like to shout out the vendors. And so we want to do even more of like big features of cosplays. Like, we'll ask them, can I shoot your cosplay? And they're like, yeah, sure. And we'll say 15-second video, do whatever your character does. And some people, they get way into it. Like if it's Freddy, like they're grabbing at you and swinging. But then some people are just like, "Heh," and they just sit still, you know, and I'm
Yeah.
like, no, move or something. And they're like, hi. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool. But it's like, we want to be, there's a cosplay channel called Mineral Blue, who's amazing. And he does all conventions, all cosplay, no talk. He's the baddest one out there. And I got to meet him at Dallas Fan Expo a couple of years ago. He was shooting some cosplay, and I was like, nobody was there with me, but I'm like, that's Mineral Blue over there. Like I could see it. It's on his backpack, and he has a team of people, and it was so cool to see him work because his videos are, and again, I will never be Mineral Blue when I grow up, but I want to be. And so I came up to him, and when he was done shooting someone, and I said, hey, can I get a selfie real quick? And he kind of laughed like, why, why me?
Yeah.
It's kind of like when Matt stopped me at Tulsa when I saw you guys. Spooky Okie came up to me and he goes, "Are you LazerWagon?" I was like, "I am, but you actually watch this channel?" Like, and it's a good feeling, and so it's fun to be recognized. I remember the first time we were recognized at Houston Horror a few years ago. It was like, okay, somebody's watching this. There's value in it. And it's not for everybody. Like, people get caught up in, well, my family doesn't like anything I put out there, or my best, whoever. Well, it's not for them. Like my family's also not into horror movies. So why would they like it or be into, I don't want the sympathy likes, but I would rather have,
Mhm.
I think we're around 750 and change, or 730. Like I would rather have 730 people that are way into it than 12,000 people that just clicked like because they know me and they never go interact or enjoy what we're doing. So we want to do it for the people that enjoy it, that get it. We try to put a lot of humor, or not a lot, but funny to us. It may
Yeah.
not be funny to everybody, but we like to, put the quick drop-ins and movie references and things. We have heavy inspiration from Kevin Smith and just people that love movies, all the horror directors. And so yeah, we are also on Facebook. What happens a lot of times on Facebook, I don't check the messages. I'm terrible with messages. So if somebody sent me a message on Facebook and it takes me forever to get to it, it's just because I forget to check it. I will post on Instagram and then it just posts it on Facebook too. And
Yeah.
so I
Same
just,
here.
it's we get busy, and it's not because we're ignoring it or we're too good for it, but heavily on Instagram, LazerWagon Official, and on YouTube. Would love a subscription, if a free subscription, if you're into what we're doing, and if you like what we're doing. Again, we don't want the sympathy follows. We just want the people that appreciate it, and we like the feedback and to know that somebody's getting value out of what we're doing, because we're going to do it either way because we love it.
Yeah.
It's we're
Exactly.
documenting our time, like we're documenting our weekend, and that it's fun to look back on it. Like I see some of that B-roll of us, like right before we bolted from the meetup, I just walked around with my pocket. I just did like a figure eight because I was like, this is my favorite part, seeing y'all laughing, like just the interactions and the laughing and people ordering drinks, and Larry was cracking me up, and it was just it was so much fun. And I hope we get to do that more often, at more of these
Absolutely.
shows as we go. So anyway, I appreciate so much the opportunity. I hope y'all will have us back or have me back. Happy to talk any movies, whether I love or don't love them. Like I just love movies. I love the process of movies that are made. I love Hollywood. I want to support, especially the horror genre, but I watch other movies, not just horror. So happy to talk, anytime you guys need a third wheel or anything like that. I'm here for you.
That's awesome. Dude, I
Yeah.
appreciate it so much. This has been such a pleasure. And
Yeah.
yeah, we'll definitely try to have you back for sure.
Okay. Well, I'll see you in Oklahoma in a few weeks.
Absolutely. It'll be awesome. And for everybody else, we'll catch you next week.
Catch you next time. Bye.
Thanks so much for listening to the podcast. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Don't forget to jump over to our website, moviesthatmakeyoupodcast.com, see all of our links. Follow us on Instagram so you never miss an episode, a live stream, or an interview. And until next time, keep watching movies.